Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will be talking about the history of artificial intelligence. In my previous video, we talked about the foundation and the different types of domains which contributes to AI. And in today's session, we will be talking about how AI was first initiated and where it stands now. Okay, so let us get started. So artificial intelligence is not a new word and not a new technology for scientists and researchers all over the world. It is much more older, and it started off in the early 1900s. Okay, so even there are several stories of mechanical men in ancient Greek and um, Egyptian civilization, where there are proofs that where they have focused on certain AI based techniques. However, since they are not formalized, hence it was not very much introduced. Okay, but currently this field of artificial intelligence involves a lot of computations, lot of technology, and a lot of calculations and models, which involves mechanics, mathematics, computer science, psychology, economics, and a lot more other such domains. So if you look at this particular image, so this is taken from javatpoint.co. Okay, so this particular image, if you see, it gives you a step-by-step idea of the number of years and the different things which were involved and developed in different years. So in 1943, the initial conception started from 1943, though in 1956 the artificial intelligence name was first coined. Okay, so it started the conception from the early 1943. This in the period from 1943 to around 1952, this is known as the maturation of artificial intelligence. So in the next slide I have already mentioned, so here it is the maturation of artificial intelligence from 1943 to 1952. And the first work which is now identified as artificial intelligence, so the very pioneer work was done by Warren McCullough and Walter Pitts in 1943, where they proposed the concept of artificial neurons. So we already did neurons in my previous video. So these are actually the building blocks of our brain and enables us to understand how our brain works. So McCullough and Walter Pitt in 1943, they worked with this particular artificial neurons, and they proposed a model based on these neurons. And in the year 1949, Donald Hebb, he demonstrated an updating rule for modifying the connection strength between neurons, which he called as the Hebbian learning. Okay, so there was another concept which was developed here, which is known as the Hebbian learning. And this Hebbian learning was based on the different connections based on the different types of neurons. Okay, and in the year 1950, it was Alan Turing who came up, and he was basically an English mathematician. So in the year 1953, Alan Turing, he came up with the Turing machine. Okay, so Alan Turing, he published computing machinery and intelligence, in which he proposed a test which is known as the Turing test. So we have already done this in our theory session. So this Turing test was first designed and developed by Alan Turing, and it was just a test of intelligence for any computer. Okay, and how was this test performed? It has a human interrogator and a human player as well as a computer player, and both the computer player and the human player will be interacting with the human interrogator, and this interrogator will be posing some written questions to both the human as well as the computer. In return, they will be giving some sort of response to the interrogator. If the interrogator gets confused with the answers, that means if he is not able to identify whether the answer that he has received is from a computer or for a human, that means this computer will be passing the Turing test. Okay, so several other modifications were also introduced to this Turing test, which enabled it to be called as a total Turing test. Okay, so this Turing machine concept or this Turing test created a revolution in the field of artificial intelligence because people could now call the systems as intelligent. Okay, now coming to the period after 1952 to 1956, so this is basically considered as the birth of AI. So if you look into this particular slide, I have already mentioned the birth of AI is between 1952 to 1956, because in the year 1955, Alan Newell and Herbert A. Simon created the first artificial intelligence program, which they named as the logic theorist. Okay, let me write it down here. Logic theorist. So this is the first artificial intelligence based program. Okay, and this program has proved 38 of 52 mathematics theorems and find new and more elegant proofs for the same theorems. It was completely based with mathematics concept, and they were they were able to create new proofs for the already existing theorems. Now a revolutionary year, which is the 1956. Okay, so the 1956, it basically gave rise to the word which is artificial intelligence. Okay, artificial intelligence was not named before 1956, and it was first adopted by American computer scientist John McCarthy at Dartmouth conference, and for the first time AI was talked in terms of academic field. Okay, moreover, along with this coinage of the term AI, a lot more other inventions took place. All right, a lot more other development took place, like Fortran, Lisp, and COBOL. So these languages were developed in 1956. Okay, so 1956 marked the birth of the term AI, as well as it also gave rise to several other high level languages, computer languages like Fortran, Lisp, or COBOL. Lisp you will be doing in your higher semesters. And also there was a very high enthusiasm for artificial intelligence during this period. Now up till 1956 it was done, and from 1956 to 1974 we consider it as the golden years of AI. That means early enthusiasm. Whenever you get something for the first time, essentially it will be definitely we are going to work with it more, and we are much more enthusiastic towards the research involved in this particular in any particular domain or any particular product. You get a new toy or you get a new book, so the early enthusiasm plays a significant role. So in the year 1966, the first chatbot, which is named as Eliza, was developed. The researchers emphasized developing programs which could solve mathematical problems, as well as different types of interesting interactive programs. So chatbot was basically an interactive program, and it was developed in the year 1966. Okay, now we have such an advanced version of the chatbots. Okay, we have Series, we have Siri, we have Alexa, we have Google Voice Assistant. There are so many chatbots which are available, but just imagine, this concept of chatbot took birth right in the year 1966, from which it has evolved severely, and into several rounds, and it has created a revolution. Okay, now it is having almost an accuracy of around 99.9%. So before that, I mean, in the year 1966, it was not that very much proficient in accuracy as well as performance. So in the year 1972, again it was a very remarkable year in the history of artificial intelligence, as the first intelligent humanoid robot was built in Japan, which was known as Wabbot 1. Okay, so this is the first intelligent humanoid robot. It looks like a human. All right, normally what happens is, when we are developing anything with AI, we are basically concentrating with the accuracy, with the performance, and in the simple interface of a program, right? but here it gave rise to a new domain which also had motor control. Okay, robots essentially have this motor control. That means it is able to move, and it is able to pick up objects, or it is able to identify obstacles and change its course. So all those things were incorporated in the first intelligent robot, which is known as the Webot. Okay, then the first AI winter was introduced in 1974 up till 1980. Okay, this duration was the first AI winter session duration or winter session. Um, Now, what do you mean by this winter duration is, this should be WINTER. Okay, so the what do you mean by this winter duration or winter session is, basically we refer to a winter duration to that particular period where various scientists and researchers, they have to deal with several shortage of funding from the government for AI researches. Okay, so government could not fund more during this period, and hence there was a lack in the development also. And however, people were not limited to just that they could not develop things or they could not work with AI, but however they started creating public awareness and publicity related to the field of AI, so that more people could be incorporated within this field and they can get more funds from the government in order to work. Okay, a lot of government agencies will definitely fund several uh, projects are being granted every year now also based on AI. Okay, after that, in 1980, it is called as the boom for AI. Okay, so in 19 from 1980 to 1987, there was a boom in the field of AI, because after the winter session, AI came back with a new concept which is known as the expert system. We will be doing our expert systems in our subsequent sessions deeply, but I'll give you a brief about how actually these expert systems are important. Okay, or why they are important. So these expert systems were programmed which could emulate the decision making ability of a human expert. Now all of us have heard about telemedicines, right? So we have heard about telemedicines, or we have heard about certain recommender systems, or certain applications which are actually like Healthify Me is there. Okay, there are a lot of things which will be taking in symptoms, or taking in certain, taking as an input uh, certain characteristics from the user. Okay, they will be taking some inputs from the user, and based on that inputs they will be giving an analysis of your health, or maybe of the health of a particular crop. Okay, or maybe they will be giving an analysis of the entire scenario. So the user will give certain input to the expert system, and based on its own learning models they will be coming up with a conclusion, maybe who will be winning the elections this time. So all those things will also be incorporated within an expert system, and the user will be just putting in the values, certain symptoms or certain characteristics or certain parameters needs to be filled, and based on these parameters the expert system will be giving you the conclusion. Okay, so this is a very very interesting concept. When we actually go ahead with the development of an expert system, we will be talking about this a little more deeply in our later chapters, because we have a whole chapter on expert system to be talked about and how they work. Okay, but as of now you have to understand that several machine learning models are involved, several AI based technologies are involved in order to generate an expert system, to develop, give any expert comments or give any type of recommendations and suggestions. So in the year 1980, the first national conference of the American Association of Artificial Intelligence was held at Stanford University. So before 1980, there was no such national conference or international conference. Okay, after 1980, that means in the year 1980, that there was the first dedicated AI based conference which was held in the Stanford University. Now talking about the second AI winter, so what happened is, basically, although it saw a boom from in 8 years, this particular domain saw a boom for about 8 years, there was again a shortage of funds during the years 1987 to 1993. Okay, this is known as the second AI winter duration, and the investors and government stopped for funding for AI research as due to high cost but not efficient result, because it was just the beginning of development, and that is why the results which were obtained, or the scientists, the performances that were obtained from the different products that were developed of through AI was not very efficient. They were just exploring things, and exploration also needed huge amount of computational resources and huge amount of other resources, and they were extremely expensive during that time, so government stopped funding. Okay, there is an evidence of an expert system which is known as XCon, which is very cost, which was very cost effective at that time. But however, other expert systems and other AI based approaches were very expensive, so hence government and other investors, they stopped funding, which introduced the second winter of AI. Okay, there was severe shortage of funds. After this, from the year 1993 to 1997, sorry, to 1993 to 2011, all right, so with this period 2011, it was known as the emergence of intelligent agents. So not only expert systems, AI came up with intelligent agents. Right. In the year 1997, IBM Deep Blue beats world chess champion Garry Kasparov and became the first computer to build a world chess champion. Now imagine you have developed a system, you are incorporating certain logic into it, and you are asking it and you're controlling it basically, but that particular system becomes so very efficient that it can defeat you in your own games or in your own strategies. So that very intelligent agents came up, which could even defend, or which could even beat the human logic. We are considered as to be the most intelligent species on this earth, right? And we are just trying to imitate a copy of our human brain into that particular machine, but that machine now can learn so much and so well that it is that very efficient that it could beat us, or it could create better logic than what our human mind, which is considered as the most intelligent brain, can perform. Okay, so in the year 1987, this IBM Blue, which is the first AI based computer to beat the world chess champion, was introduced. Okay, and it is extremely intelligent. We still have a lot of different versions of IBM. Okay, so that we will be seeing. We have IBM Watson, so that is again another system which is a very sought after technology. Okay, and it won a quiz show in the year 2011. So it has that capacity of storing, retrieving and analyzing the information, right? In the year 2002, for the first time, we used AI in the form of a vacuum cleaner. Okay, so this is Roomba. So this is basically a vacuum cleaner, which was introduced to be used in our household activities to help us in cleaning our houses. So now AI is not limited to just computers. It came up with the form of products which are used in our day to day lives. Okay, in 2006, then AI became the business world, um, came into the business world, like Facebook, Twitter, Netflix. All these are basically AI based platforms. Okay, so what happens in Facebook? So you have face recognition automatically. When you upload a photo in Facebook, your face is recognized and it is redirected to, it will be redirected to the different accounts which are already there in Facebook, and you can select from one of them, and sometimes it automatically tags that particular person, because Facebook learning models are so very confident that that person is exactly the person who has an account in Facebook. Okay, similarly Twitter also, it pulls in all the values, all the different other tweets which are related to your tweets, and it will display you for any recommendations, or it will also display you the different companies which you can tag with your post. So all those things are basically based on AI. Again, Netflix will give you different recommendations of different videos based on your latest searches. Okay, YouTube, for example, the recommendations are tremendous. I mean, the way they work, you it is amazing, because when you are searching something in YouTube, the next time you enter into YouTube, and all the recommended relevant videos related to that particular video which you have already searched will pop up, and you can go on checking them one by one until your search for that particular content is satisfied, right? So this was the introduction or emergence of intelligent agents, and it happened from 1993 to 2011, right? So after 2011, there was there were more advanced concepts which were introduced, which were introduced, like deep learning, big data, artificial general intelligence. So all these things were introduced after 2011. Some prominent examples in 2011, basically there was IBM Watson, which is another AI based technology, who won Jeopardy. That was a quiz show where it had to solve complex questions as well as riddles. Now, riddles, they do not have any clear cut premises or any clear cut facts about anything. So, you have to use your brain in order to solve it. There are multiple options, multiple alternatives, multiple choices which you could make, and which is the best possible choice, that was actually identified by IBM Watson. Now, Watson had proved that it could understand natural language and solve tricky questions quickly, much faster than what a human brain can do. Now, this is very amazing, because as compared to human brains, the processors or the brain, the CPUs that your system has, they are not very much equipped with logical reasoning. Okay, other reasoning, that is fine, but logical reasoning is not very much a very common concept in AI. But IBM Watson was quick enough to solve all logic related questions as well as riddles in relatively very less amount of time. Now, in the year 2012, again, Google launched an Android app feature which is known as Google Now, which was able to provide information to the user as a prediction. Okay, so it could predict the weather, it could predict the location, it could predict the different types of scenarios which are available. So Google Now was a very trending concept in that particular year. Now, not only Google Now, you will talk about, I'm just talking about this Google Now, because it was proactively delivered. It used to proactively delivered information to users to predict the information which they may need in the form of informational cards. However, Google Now branding is no longer used. Okay, but the functionality continues in the Google app and its Discover tab. Okay, Google first included Google Now in 4.1, Android 4.1, which is Jelly Beans. Okay, which was launched in July 9, 2012, and your Galaxy Nexus smartphone was the first one to support it. All right, so this was an innovation of the year for 2012. All right, it got the innovation of the year. That award it Google received for its Google Now. And there was also Google Voice Search, which was simultaneously going on. Okay, the development was simultaneously going on, and now you can see where Google Voice Search has reached. It is to that extent that it can book an appointment without the uh, involvement of any human, right? So all these things, they do not happen overnight. They had to be extremely, people used to work dedicatedly towards this field, so that they come up with the latest and the new versions every time they wanted to experiment with something new. Okay, it's new intelligent, Google showcased its new intelligent personal assistant, which is Google Assistant. Okay, and it is now an evolution to the current Google, I mean the Google Now, which was introduced in 2012. So now we have Google Assistant for Google Now. Okay, now Google Now you could just work with it was just a one-way communication between the user and the device. So you could just give instruct the device to do something, or you can just convert yours speech into text and search for something. However, your Google Voice Assistant is now capable of communicating, conversing with you, and hence they can actually book an appointment without your intervention. So this is really something which we should be very much proud of ourselves as of now, because as a human civilization we have achieved that level of success in converting a machine which has no brain absolutely to the level of a human brain. Now in 2014, there was another chatbot which is known as Eugene Goostman, and it won a competition in the infamous Turing test. Okay, so basically what happens is, generally the Turing test was conducted in order to qualify a particular computer to pass or not to pass the Turing test, and then if it passes the Turing test we consider it as intelligent. However, in this particular Eugene Goostman, it won a competition in the Turing test against a human player. Okay, so this is also something which was a remarkable achievement in the field of AI. Then in the year 2015, Amazon Echo was developed. In the year 2018, the project Debater from IBM debated on complex topics with two master debaters and also performed extremely well. So there was a debate. Actually now the status is such that these AI based machines, they can actually debate with a human or debate with another machine. So these are the very much latest or very much new concepts which has been introduced to AI, and it is doing really very well. Okay, so Google has demonstrated an AI program Duplex, which was a virtual assistant and which had taken hairdresser appointment on call, and the lady on the other side did not notice that she was talking with a machine. So that powerful now AI has become. Okay, AI has developed to a remarkable level, and we have different concepts, different high-end concepts which will be taking up one by one in our subsequent sessions. We have deep learning, big data, data science, all of them are incorporated in this particular field, and much uh, more companies, big companies are joining hands with AI so that they can improve their economy and they can improve their the entire status of their companies. Okay, and also we have to understand that it always needs a creative mind in order to develop something relatively new in the field of AI. So that it needs to be continuously explored and experimented until we reach to a level where we can innovate something new out of the already existing ones. Okay, so these were the milestones in short. We saw all of them, and we also talked about different types of products and different types of AI technologies which came up during different years. We also saw that there were two winter sessions as of now where the field of AI really suffered. However, now it is in a steady pace and people are working more towards its progress in order to achieve much more success in this particular field up till it becomes almost a part of our everyday lives. Okay, so this is all for today's video. We will again discuss more about this in our subsequent sessions. Thank you.